Hello everybody again. Here I am doing another video. So I kind of, instead of like reviews, I do want to like do other things around the webtoons and anime and stuff like that. So I'm gonna try to do 2 videos tonight. They may not get uploaded on the same night, but I'm gonna make 2 of them tonight, and it's called What's in a Fight. And I haven't decided if I'm going to say what's in a webtoon fight or what's in an anime fight. It'll be in the title. But as crazy as it seems, there are many amazing fights in webtoons, as there are in anime as well. And I kind of want to make a series talking about them. And I'm going to do anime too, because there's one fight that I just have to talk about. I'm pretty sure if you watch anime, you know which fight is going to come up. As unfortunate as I have to say that. But yeah, let's begin. So today we're going to talk about Unordinary. And we're going to talk about the fight between John and whatever their names are, and Arlo. Mainly John and Arlo, because this fight is a lot more intricate than just on the surface. And yes, it's amazing that he showed his ability, but then also at the same time too, it was great just to see how this fight unfolded. So let's first off with this. So John awakens his ability after he realizes that in his head that he is not the monster. It is the people who trapped him and planned to beat him up who were the true monsters. Because he was really trying to be friends with Arlo, and Arlo actually did betray him because Arlo suspected that John was hiding more than what he seems. So after he is ambushed, he awakens his ability, which again, trust me, if you're watching The Ordinary now, when we first found out that he had abilities, this was hype for like 2 months. This was hype. Like, it was so good when we realized that John had ability, and probably the strongest ability that we have known. But we're gonna get, well, that's a different video. So the episode starts off with this conflict in his head that he's kind of resolving, where it's that I am not the monster, these people are the monsters, and so I have a right to unleash my ability to protect myself, really. But of course, John, sorry about that, John, is quite of a jerk when he uses his ability, and that's why he becomes crippled, because he knows the horrible person that he is. And so here he goes again with his onslaught as he begins to attack Arlo, and Arlo is smiling because this is all what Arlo planned it. Because before this, Arlo expected that John had an ability, and he wanted to find out what it is. He wanted to find out what this guy was hiding, because he had suspicions about John from the very beginning. And so he is smiling, and you see this exchange of this smile, and how John is really, really angry between the 2 of them. And then one of his henchmen intervenes to stop John. So right now, John is seeming to have one of these sisters' powers, which is called the Ventus Kit, which is just a bunch of claws. And she has a sister with Whirlwind. But first he's using this ability, and it kind of shocks her, and it shocks all of us too, because we didn't think that the ability he was hiding was something as simple as that. But the way it looks, the way it feels in the webtoon, we knew it was more to it than that. We were just waiting for the panels to reveal what was going to happen. So he begins to attack Arlo, and the lady intervenes with the claws, and she is surprised that he is using this kit to fight against her, and so she continues her attack. He is obviously showing overwhelming presence, and as he's being the jerk that he is, really just wants her to go away, so he begins to just blow her away like she's a fly. So then that's when her sister comes in to reveal a whirlwind, and it does no damage to him. So which means that his ability is not only just really strong aggressively, it is very strong defensively, and he knows how to use his ability very, very well too. Like Arlo with his barrier, where it can be defensive, but how he uses it aggressively to like trap and contain people. So this was pretty interesting. But what's more interesting is that one minute he's using Ventus, and then the next minute he's using the whirlwind, which shocks both of the sisters because at this point they don't know what ability that he has. And 9 times out of 10 in a battle, especially a battle about abilities, knowing is half the battle. So the fact that they don't know his ability really kind of worries them there because they don't know really how to fight it. But they know that he's very, very strong, and the fact that he was supposed to be a cripple and he wasn't really scares these two girls. And they begin to try to fight him to no avail. So let's talk about John's power for a second, as we see in these panels right here. I will always say this. John's power kind of reminds me of an anime manga called Madoka's Box. Madoka Box, if you haven't watched it or read it, is absolutely an amazing series. But it talks about a girl, it talks about a girl who can do everything. And it starts off really light. But then, around the second season, it gets so real. Like, you have no idea when it literally went from 0 to 100 in like 2 episodes, and you just couldn't get enough of it. But what was interesting is that they introduced the abnormals, and beings with superhuman powers, because in the manga it calculates 3 people: normal, special, and abnormal. Yeah, normal, special, abnormal. And so Madoka's ability was called didnt. Didnt seemed like it can copy other people's abilities, but it's way more than that in retrospect. So let's talk about it. Didnt simply, on the surface, it copies other people's abilities, which is why Madoka seems to be able to do many things that normal people couldn't do very expeditiously, kind of like Ishiki and how he's able to play instruments and do anything pretty much without putting his mind to it. That's how you can think Madoka's ability is. But her ability also has another part to it. Kind of like Udo, who was a villain, because he had the same ability where he could take someone's power and utilize it to its maximum, near its maximum efficiency. But Madoka simply is this. She can do what others can do, but she can also do what they can't. So basically she takes an ability and she improves on it. So she makes it her own, but then she is able to improve on it and do what other people couldn't do with their abilities. In the anime, it mainly talked about how people could basically turn their abilities on and off, because that was a big issue and a theme in the anime and in the manga that people couldn't do. So she was able to turn her abilities on and off to utilize them to their maximum efficiency. That is what John's ability is in retrospect, in my opinion. It's not a copy ability. It's more than a copy ability in retrospect. It's more of an ability that he uses to improve on other people's abilities and fix their errors, because that's what it really seems like, especially in this fight between the twins, and in one part when he's using this girl's surveillance ability to heal Seraphina, which was absolutely amazing. So let's continue with the fight. So the fact that they don't know what they're going up against, they try to subdue him with the whirlwind, and the whirlwind fails. But so then this is where John goes on the attack, and this is when John uses the whirlwind to attack the 2 ladies. Another reason why I say that John's ability is more of an improvement on abilities is seen here, where he uses these winds blades, which one of the ladies said, "Oh, this is not part of my ability. Why is he able to do it in this way?" So after being blown away by this, they try for one final push, and it obviously fails. So the one with the Vengeance Kit attempts to subdue John one last time, but John is easily able to dodge and use the whirlwind that he was able to acquire to push her up in the air. So this fight has already been won. The whirlwind girl cannot do anything, and the Vengeance Kit girl is up in the air, and she's pretty high up there where she could possibly die. So they give John the battle, and she just wants to save her sister. And John, being the jerk that he is, doesn't really care at this point. And he subdues the whirlwind girl, and he just lets her fall and possibly break a lot of bones. And that's kind of how the fight, part 1 of the fight, was concluded. So now John has subdued the pest, as he calls him, or the trash, and now he goes to his real target, which is Arlo. But here, it's more about not beating Arlo. It's more about, how to say it in a way, it's more about him being so hurt at this and him realizing, as if, like, he's not the problem. This is where you see when the two are locking eyes together. This is not him necessarily with the murderous intent to beat him down. This is what happens when you mess with me. Please don't mess with me. Don't think I'm any weaker than you. I'm actually way stronger than you can possibly imagine. And so in the next chapter, we see both of them are about to fight. So here they are, about to battle. So it's really smart of Arlo. So let's start off with this. John uses the two powers that he's acquired, and he uses it to create a whirlwind against Arlo. So Arlo expects that he's using this whirlwind as a means for him to use his barrier, so he can use it, which is what Arlo suspects. One thing about Arlo, which I really like in this episode, is that Arlo shows that he's more than just an ability user. He also uses his head, which is why he is the king of the school, because these fights are more of a mental game than anything, than the level of thing that you have. And he's clearly using it in this fight, because he figures that if he uses his ability, that's when John's able to use it. That's why John is using this whirlwind as a fence to cover the sight, so he can use his barrier. So John uses this flurry of wind as a blinder to Arlo, and then quickly swipes him, which Arlo had anticipated. But since Arlo obviously cannot do anything without his ability, he attempts to use his ability to take him down one time. But he knows that if he cannot take him down, he more likely will lose. But we're going to get into that in a little bit. So John is again on his rampage, and he's really upset. But here, it's like he knows that he can wear him out at one point. So he goes again for another flurry of attacks. He goes up in the air, which was actually really incredible. And he just comes crashing down with this anger and this fury against Arlo. And Arlo is prepared using his body, his own body, as a way to take some of the damage to repel John away. And then he uses his barrier as a means to probably seal him. But here's where things get interesting here as well. Whereas John, since Arlo uses his ability, for some reason he's able to use the ability as well. And he creates his own barrier as a way to deflect Arlo's barrier, and also to crack both of the barriers and used it and to get out so he can attack Arlo. Which is a little interesting here is that first the power, the trick was 10 and the power was really high, but now the defense went to max and the trick is still the same. So this is where I think it's like Monika's ability at the end, because he's able to improve on these abilities and put them to their max level, which it seems like what's happening here, which is why the author gave us 2 power levels. Especially even at the end, where she gives us the power level of John's defense is all the way high, and Arlo's ability, and the trick is all the way high as well. So it's quite interesting. I think it's like the end. So Arlo is just amazed by this, because he's using it in such a strategic way to break out. And after kicking and punching, he eventually breaks out of it. And this is when Arlo tries to use another barrier, but fails. And so John is able to punch him and to send him flying. But then he uses his own barrier again to punch Arlo. Well, and also too, to create that wall, to create more force, so his punch will have more power. Which was, again, really interesting, just because he was able to pick up how Arlo was using his barrier and make it his own, in pretty much a drop of a hat, which shows how scary John is when he uses his ability. He's not only a butt munch, but he also can use these abilities with strategic knowledge as well. That's one thing that I like about this fight, was that it really wasn't about a battle of power. It was about a battle of intelligence. It was about a battle of strategicness. It was about a battle of wits, and that's how the victor became the victor that we are. Because yes, John is very powerful, but John also knew how to use the abilities that he had to defeat Arlo, which again, and Arlo, again, he's the king. He's considered extremely strong. So it's really hard to see someone who can beat Arlo like this, but he does. And so after he punched him, he puts him on the ground. He steps on him, and he roughs him up just a little bit to show his dominance. To, I guess you could see it's more like a saying of like how the people of lower power, and because here John is a person of lower power supposedly, but he's able to overcome those of higher power. So this him stepping on him is more of a symbol of I can have more authority over you. So don't get it twisted. And finally he says, the next time, if you tell anyone what happens, I really don't know. And that's kind of how it ended. This fight is really interesting because not only do we get to see John's power, but we also get to see how John used it, which is huge. And I hope that we get to see more of it in the future. That's what's in a fight. This is my first one, so if you like it, make sure you leave a like about it, or comment below about it if you can. That'd be so helpful. If you like this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. With that being said, I thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.